freaking awesome, Michael.
Woo! As Ric Flair would say. And I tell you what, that was a awesome end to a very entertaining Music City Bowl brought to us by our friends from Liberty Mutual. Ked, we have just witnessed for the first time in Illini history 2 back-to-back 9+ game winning seasons.
Mike, I just don't even know what to say. I'm so happy for the players, the fans, the program, everybody. This was outstanding. It was an interesting game. There's no room for negativity tonight. I mean, there's just not. I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to complain about what they should have done. This is a celebration for the program where Illinois has been before. I mean, for the OGs out there that's older, remember what this was like. You lose games like this. Well, I don't even know if you lose them. You don't even put yourself in position to even be in these games. You beat an SEC opponent on national TV. I love the fact that it was on ESPN, and this was just great. We've said it multiple times. This is a great time to be an Illini fan with everything that's going on down there. Mike, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I'm really excited for the program, the kids, and all the fans. This was really, really good. It was a great game, by the way, too. I should add that, I guess.
Yeah, I tell you what, that was a lot of fun, and it was one that, it was funny, but those kickoffs, when a guy on a kickoff return or a punt return, when he loses a handle on the ball, it's a 50-50 on how bad it's going to be. When you lose, you lose the handle, and all of a sudden guys get out of their lanes on the kick return, and it's either you nail the guy all the way back where he fumbled the ball, or he goes all the way. And that was the only moment of the game that Illinois wasn't in total control. And then, you got to give credit. When I talked to, and Ked's gone, Brad, when I talked to the guys from Tennessee, I said, if it comes down to the end of the game and Luke Altmaier has the ball and he's got the opportunity to go for the win, you better be afraid.
Well, isn't that, that's Luke going out as a legend, right? I mean, this is awesome. I mean, this is what what you wanted. He wanted, he wanted the ball in his hands at the end of that game. And so that's where it ended up. And you can't ask for what, if we did, I know there were times when it looked like Illinois had a chance to open it up. Maybe they were up 10 there, and then we had the kick return, and we talked about the kick return. I heard you just mention it, where it's it's a fumbled play where everything kind of gets discombobulated, and that's exactly what happened there. And so when that happens, everybody gets out of their lanes and bad things happen. But at the end of the day, how tough is it to see a team that can battle through that stuff? I mean, that's huge. I mean, that just bounce back, and Luke Altmaier goes out an Illini legend.
And Brad has taken a drop off. Is one of those nights for the internet. But hold on, we've got Brad back.
Sorry. No, I don't know what happened there.
We're all excited.
Yeah. This is a great night for Luke Altmaier. I mean, this is the way he wanted to go out, right? That's what it was all about.
Yeah, Illini legend. I mean, let's face it now. Luke Altmaier went from the Illini transfer quarterback that everybody thought, gosh darn, we didn't get Hudson Card, to, oh my gosh, he's an Illini legend now. I mean, what an incredible way to close out the career. And it's so typical of what Luke Altmaier does as a guy. It's just outstanding to see. Ked, you had some thoughts?
The game plan was great. You know what? I tell you what, if you give him talent in 2 weeks to prepare in a bowl game, I mean, look what he did last year against South Carolina. Look what he did today. The offense was great. I mean, I said I wasn't going to say anything negative, and this isn't negative. But if there was out of a whole game, if there was one play I would like to see taken back, was a 3rd and 9 call. They tried to run the ball up the middle late, and they ended up getting a field goal. Other than that, I thought everything was great. And defensively, you held a team that averages 40 points a game. Okay, 40 points a game down to 28. So I think it's great. There's so many good stories out of this, and you know, there are people out there. You can always debate who's the best quarterback, who's not the best quarterback. But let's give this kid credit. He is from the South. He's from Starkville, Mississippi, and we all know the story. We've all, talked about it, wrote about it. Could have went somewhere else. Here's a kid that stayed in the Midwest and stayed loyal to the university. That's kudos to the coaching staff, to the kid. I mean, just because he could have left, and it wasn't just him. I mean, the whole team played great today, but. You know what? He's put his name in the record books. He was the player of the game, which was so obviously deserving. I liked when they ran him. They put the ball in his hands for him to win it, not to lose it, and that was just truly amazing.
The other
quick. You mentioned the defense there. You held them 28, so they scored under 30 points 4 times this season. Right? This was the 4th. They lost 3 of those 4. The other loss they had was to Georgia. 44-41. So this team scored 41 points against Georgia, and they scored 28 against Illinois, because that Illinois has a much better defense than Georgia. So obviously, right? Isn't that the way it works? So
That's right.
and they hadn't been held under 20 all year. So if you thought they were going to hold them to like 17 at some point, it wasn't going to happen. I mean, this Tennessee's talented football team. They've got explosive players on the outside. They've got some running backs that are really solid. They've got some size. And I'm, this was just a great game plan. Aaron Henry, they made it. And, this is Brett Bielema's complimentary football all day long.
Yes,
they controlled the time of possession. They had the ball, they have the ball 36 minutes or so, 35 minutes, 36 minutes of the game.
36:02.
Yep, Illinois had the football 36 minutes of the game. And then they're able to run the football at the end of the game because the other team's tired. I mean, there's something to be said for that. Now, and on the other side, why did Tennessee? They were running the ball one possession, then they stopped doing it. It was like, yeah, we might score this way, so let's go back to just throwing the football because that's more fun. Because we've passed for 75 yards today. So no, it was just bizarre. So sometimes you take advantage of coaching mistakes. I mean, Aguilar threw for 121 yards, but how many times did he get sacked? He got sacked, 4 times for 38 yards. So, really net passing was more like 83 yards net passing. That's crazy.
Yeah, this was incredible. Let's run through the stats real quick for folks who are at home, maybe hadn't had a chance to look at it yet. But when you're looking at these stats, you have 417 total yards of offense for Illinois, 278 for Tennessee. Illinois won the passing game 196 to 121. The rushing game 221 to 157. Those are some big numbers that contribute to that 36 minutes of time of possession. Only 4 penalties for 20 yards for the Illini. They got it all out of their system. Apparently the offensive line had it in their system. 27 first downs to 18, 6 for 13 on third down situations, 1 for 3 on fourth down situations, 73 plays to 55, average yards per play 5.7 to 5.1, per completion 9.8 to 8.6, average rush 5.7 to 4.2. You're looking at Illinois 5 out of 5 in the red zone. You don't go 5 out of 5, you lose this game. 36 minutes of possession to 23:58. 4 sacks to 1, 7 tackles for loss to 5, and Illinois didn't lose a turnover. So, this is a game that Illinois did all of the big stuff. They did all the things that we needed them to do to win. So that is the kind of the wrap up here. The other thing is, what about Aiden Lowry? It was kind of an afterthought at the end of the season, and then all of a sudden is like most valuable rusher at the end here.
Luke Altmaier's MVP, by the way, of the bowl game. That's not surprising, but he just got his little award. So, but they're interviewing him now here in the stadium. But anyway, so I also think, how about the you mentioned Lawfrey, but I thought Valentine, Fagan ran well. Jordan Anderson. I mean, they got the running backs are great.
Yeah.
How about this though? You mentioned Lawfree. He's healthy now.
Yes.
He's battling injuries all year, and then you get a guy. He's really good at coming and battling. When he's healthy, he's getting those cutbacks, and he's able to break big plays, like get down the field for 10, 15-yard gains, and that's something that he has the speed to do, which is really nice.
There's been, it's good to have them back, but I like what they have in the backfield since we're talking about that. They just have a lot of different weapons back there, speed, power. A lot of people are, upset because, Fagan didn't get the ball more, but he had opportunities. And the one thing I give him credit for, he blocked really, really well tonight. I mean, that was a knock on him in the past, guys. Don't know if you paid attention to that, but he did a really good job of doing that. So, but when you look at the big picture of what's going on with this team, man, and what the possibilities are, Brett Bielema showed you how to manage a football game. He literally showed you what to do and how to attack things. And I know this is so immature on my part, but whatever. It's always good to beat an SEC team, fellas, because the tide is turning. It's not what it used to be. There used to be the everybody was afraid of the SEC because they used to dominate the Big Ten. The talent level is not the same as it once was. The talent gap is not what it once was. You look at what Ohio State, Michigan has done, to SEC teams, and if you want to look at what Illinois has done tonight against Tennessee, they were the underdogs coming in. It was a small amount, but it was great. And then also for me, Mike, Brad, you weren't with us, at halftime, but and obviously you didn't get to hear the game, but the love for the SEC was sickening. And so it's probably good that you weren't here because they didn't want, I'm serious. A lot of people were texting. They were thinking, they wanted the team to win, but they wanted to shove it in the ESPN's face. But I get it. I understand.
Yeah. I really think in the end, I think Brett Bielema was just a better coach today. And I thought Jason had an interesting comment here, but we said this at home, this giving Luke Altmaier 4 minutes and 58 seconds to engineer a comeback. I don't know that it could have been any better because, Luke still might have killed him if they only gave him 30 seconds.
He's
good.
You
give him 458. I thought that was a key. And the funny thing is when you look at it, as an NFL coach, how do you not give Luke a chance? Because the guy, he reminds me a little bit. Remember what Buddy Ryan said, about Chris Carter? All he does is catch touchdown passes. Well, all Luke does is win games at the end of the game. He may not have the strongest arm. He may not be 6'6", all these buts, but he wins.
He does. Like at the end of the day, that's what matters. And the problem with scouting with some people, once you get a stigma and they look at you, it's hard to break that label. It really is. And he's had that stigma. And, you talk about, from where he was at his sophomore year when he came to Illinois to where he is now, you saw his will to win. I was 7 comeback wins this year, I think, or something like that, or maybe the last couple of years. He is a winner. And at some point, somebody may take a chance on him. I would hope to see that happen because he deserves that. The school deserves it because, from a standpoint of putting guys in the NFL, and, Brett can also sell that. If you're a quarterback looking in the transfer portal, you can see how important that position is, Mike, but you're 100% right. It would be nice to see him get a legitimate shot at it. And I know we're going to talk about this at some point, but I'm happy for the team, but I'm so thrilled for Aaron Henry. We talked about them scoring 28 points. Now, we can't say take away that touchdown, the kickoff, but because it's a part of the game. But man, this could have been worse than what it was if they just make one tackle.
Yeah, although in fairness, we talked about this at the beginning. when there's a fumble on a punt return or kickoff return, that always gets guys out of their lines, their pursuit lines, and all of a sudden now you got that gap, and guys get next to each other, so one block can take them out. It seems like it's either feast or famine when that happens. I do think that the other thing is Illinois did have their own big play, which was that strip sack for a touchdown. So I'm good with going either way.
So let's think about that, Mike. So Tennessee scored 28 points. One of those touchdowns came on a kick return. So Tennessee scored 21 and literally gave up 7 on offense. The only defense was a -14 when they were on the field. They really only gave up 14 points when you consider they scored 7. I know it doesn't work like that, but I'm just, and I still have people there are still people out there, bashing this and bashing that of Theron Henry, but you got to give the guy credit. They had a great game plan. They executed for the most part. Did they miss some tackles on a couple of those drives where they opened up plays? Certainly. I thought, are they still just immeasurably awful on 3rd and long? If 3rd and 4, they're better than 3rd and 15. But at the end of the day, they had a great job of their game plan, and that's what you're looking for. And they gave them a chance to win the game.
Brad, kid, put a seatbelt on.
I know what you're going to say. I guarantee it.
St. Dominic's Rosary is positive. I don't know what to do, but you know what?
Around to see if anything's fallen on me here.
No, look. I've said time and time again, I didn't think Coach B was a great hire when they hired him, and I've said time and time again, I was dead wrong. So Brett Bielema has built this program, and if it wasn't for a certain other coach, Brett Bielema, everybody would be going like this. Illinois is now done. We've been playing football at Illinois since 1901 or something like that, and for the first time ever, Illinois has won 9 or more games in back-to-back seasons. 125 years of football.
That's good.
And just think about it. Think what we were asking about. We've all said this. Yes, they wanted to get to the college playoffs. Everybody said it. Not everybody, but most people said just give us 8 or 9 wins every year. That's happening right now. Yes, I said it before. Yeah, you want to get to the college playoffs, but you're there. I mean, this could be so much. It could be uglier. You watch the cheerleaders, the fans that came out. I mean, everybody talks about how well the fans support the University of Illinois. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to come out again and support this team next year. You just have to win and be competitive. And they're doing that. And I will say this, the Big Ten is going to be tougher again. Everybody wants to win. Everybody's hiring great coaches. Everybody wants to get the best players. And you better have something different to sell than everybody else. And the one thing that Illinois can sell, Brett Bielema wins. That's it. You will be developed as a player. He will develop you to become bigger, better, the talent-wise, that you have to maximize it. And you're going to have a great fan base and great facilities. I mean, but the bottom line is winning games, and they're doing that.
Yeah, and look, we've lived through some really bad coaches. So Illinois fans, there's no such thing as deserves, but Illinois fans have certainly done their penance, sitting through a lot of years of, from Gary Moeller when I was a kid, and Tim Beckman, probably the two naders of the Illinois football program, and so it's great to see somebody who's got that. And the other thing I was going to say to you guys, and I know that Luke took some hits, but I didn't think that just even with a player or two going opting out for Tennessee, I did not expect Illinois' offensive line to open up the holes they did tonight. And I think they deserve a huge round of credit for what they did, because when it came to the point of attack, they really did a number on that Tennessee defensive line. And if you remember, the guy from the Vol brothers said that if you attack them hard on the run, that he thought they were susceptible. Turned out to be a really, really good tip there.
Mike, all of it was. You mentioned the offensive line, but I thought special teams, other than the kickoff return, defense, they all paid attention to detail. They paid attention to the scouting report. They passed the ball. They opened up holes. They ran the ball, well. It was just really, really smart, intelligent football, in my personal opinion, from what they did, and knowing the fact that Brett Beadham was a good X's and O's coach. I thought this too. When they scored, I thought, man, you just gave them 4 minutes to score. The only thing that could hurt Illinois is turning the ball over. I know they were going to get the ball down the field. I'm sure you guys were probably confident, but typical things usually happen to Illinois. But I know how good they are, and I've said that multiple times. I looked and I'm thinking, man, 4 minutes may be too much time for Illinois to score because they're not going to give the ball away.
Yeah. Brad, anything on there?
No, I just saw it. Got a message. Tennessee. Never mind. I'm not gonna say it. But anyway, so no, this was. I just really think that you have a program here that think about what they've done. They beat the ACC champions this year, Illinois, in Duke, and I know they did not play well against Washington, but at Washington's not an easy place to win, right? They got bombed by Indiana, and actually they scored more points against Ohio State than anybody has all year, right?
And they beat the MAC champions.
They beat the MAC champions.
And they destroyed the MAC champions.
They did.
Who won the bowl game.
Right. So it's not always bad. And so I think that it's not, sometimes you lose, and even if you play poorly, whatever. I think the only game where you can look at this point there was a true, you could say that the way it happened was disappointing, but the actual win-loss was Wisconsin, right? And if that not for that game, you're looking at another. I don't know. They're probably not even in this bowl game. They're beating somebody else. But this was a team. Tennessee was in the college football playoff last year. This is a program that spends a ton of money. They have the expectations are extremely high. This is huge. That's why. Yes, we beat the ACC champions. That's Duke, and they beat Tennessee. But these are really big non-conference wins. And what's the Big Ten 6-0 in bowl games?
Yes,
you got to tip your hat. If the Big Ten, you realize if they win again, this could be their third. This could be a third consecutive national title for the Big Ten. Think about that, and then continue winning. It's crazy.
Yeah, with Georgia, Indiana, and Ohio State are three really good teams. I'm not certain, it could just be which guy's got his kids playing the best that night. But I do think that the Big Ten has a 66% chance of winning the national title, because if you have two of the top three teams, you get a little bit better opportunity there. Of course, USC's playing tonight. They got an opportunity to go 7-0. So that's good. The other thing I think that was really interesting is Thompson played his best game. Matt brought this up at the half, but he played his best game at Illinois. What a fantastic night to decide to do that. And certainly, I'm not certain what happened to him on that strip sack fumble recovery for the touchdown. For a second, I thought he just landed on the ball wrong, and could have been really wrong. Couldn't tell exactly where he fell. I felt for him as a fan. So anyway, it is to me, this is really the culmination of what Brett Bielema does. And now the world is changing because they've got $15 million to spend this year. So as soon as, now Brett and Josh and company have to figure out, I'm talking about, it depends on how much you take from other people. Yes. But to me, it seems like if they get to 25, you're going to see an Illinois team that's going to be fun to watch. And when you look at what Illinois has done versus the past, how can you not take a serious look at Brett Bielema and joining this organization? You guys are getting into the NFL. The team is outperforming their historical norms, and the kids don't transfer away as often as other schools because they seem to actually enjoy themselves.
I think that's spot on. I think they don't leave because they're, they realize that they're, Brett really teaches family. He preaches that and talks about how he takes care of these guys, and I think that's a huge part of this culture of this program. The culture is fantastic. I mean, I just think you can't beat that. That's so important because it's not just about winning; it's about keeping your people.
Yep. Ked, you talk to families and players all the time. What do you hear about this family? With the ILL in the middle.
Mike, I'm glad you asked. Do you know I've had so many recruits say to me, a lot of schools preach it, but at Illinois is different because they live it. You can see it when the kids get on the field. They're excited. They're excited to know what Illinois football is about. They can feel it with the players. The recruits that are on campus, the ones that who are being potential recruits. So and it's not fake. And this because I've talked to a number of different kids in different classes, different position players. Doesn't matter if they're from Chicago or Florida. You can really, really tell that they like it and that they're happy. There's a kid, I'll just be honest with you, his name is Cole Rusk. He's from Rock Island, the Quad Cities where I'm at. And I'm going to tell you, one of his dreams is to play there. And, I've talked to him about it a number of times, and he was like, kid, it's true, man. It's different. Everybody gets along. I mean, the world we live in, and people are so different, and, there's no cliques with this team. It's easy to eat dinner with somebody else that you don't know. It's different. And that environment, along with winning, cures a lot of those things. And so to me, that's what's going to have to happen. They're going to have to go out and they're going to have to continue to recruit, which we know they're going to. And I want to make mention of this. Illinois has a football commitment in the class of 2027. His name is Camden Lopati from Salt Lake City. He's a 3-star, 4-star football recruit, and he has committed to the University of Illinois. And the unique thing is, he made it really clear that he was come to Illinois. But this school with this different color orange, I think they're called the Tennessee Volunteers. They offered him a scholarship the last couple of weeks. And tonight, I'm going to make sure I text him tonight and find out exactly what he thought about the game, because he does have a commitment to Illinois, and Tennessee was just begging him. So now I think he saw what Luke Altmaier did, saw what Illinois was able to do. So hopefully that offer that Tennessee, put on the table to him is going to be an afterthought.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about this, Brad, because I know you've got some inside scoop, some people you talk to. How do you feel about the Ethan Hampton is going to be all we end up with for next year?
Oh, it's not going to be. I mean, they're going to add another guy in the portal, and then Ethan Hampton and either Boyd or the one other, or the guy they're going to bring in, are going to be the guys who will compete for that starting spot, and they'll let them go through and see what happens. Ethan Hampton is probably best suited as a really, really good backup, but he beat Notre Dame last year. So, this is he's not a chopped liver. Ethan Hampton will have another year. Don't worry. So he will have another year. So he's going to be in the mix. I think Boyd's going to be in the mix, and I think there's another player. I think there'll be another player they'll add, and we'll see which guy it is. But I think it's going to be a guy who's got experience, has been a starter elsewhere.
And I think the key is with Illinois, don't look at the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks who are rated so high that are going to be, $3 to $5 million a year. Look for Bielema to pick a good quarterback that's also somebody you can build around. Let's say like a Luke Altmaier. People forget that,
culture guy. Get a culture guy. You know what Luke Altmaier did really well tonight too? How about running the football? Give me a mobile quarterback who can throw the ball. Did Luke throw a pass more than like 20 yards downfield all day long today? I mean, it was like 20-yard passes. So you're talking about you need to make accurate passes. You got to be mobile. You got to make good decisions, be smart. And there are a lot of guys who can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when they're coached well. And that's the one thing you're going to get with a Brett Bielema team. You're going to get good coaching, which you can't underestimate that when you look at what's going on with the team. And so yeah, I think yeah, no, hard no.
No. Nope, me either. I'm not a fan of that one.
So he's got to act like Pat Mahomes. So that means he's got to get a knee injury. So.
He's really talented, but that's not the culture guy you want. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what we're talking about right now. Is like the reason it's a culture fit. You got to find the right guy, and I'm not saying that. You know, one thing about these guys is you find guys like an Ethan Hampton who is a good culture fit. He was a great backup all year, and maybe not as talented, but you got a guy who's a good fit in your program. Now you may get a better, more talented guy who's also a good fit, but at the end of the day, that's what you have to do with your program. Guys who want to be here and want to compete, who can go out and do it when needed.
I just saw a statistic. I don't know if you saw it, Mike. The Big Ten is 6-0, and the SEC, I think, so far is 2-6 or 2-5 or something like that. And so the Big Ten has 7 games left, and the SEC has 6 games left. But they've only won 2 games. I don't know who the teams were that won, but
they beat a G5 team, and another SEC team is who they beat. So
okay.
Yeah. So that's. Definitely, I do think the teams at the very top, I think I give a slight edge to the SEC, and as you go, to the Big Ten, and as you go down in the middle, I'd still give SEC a little bit of an advantage. But as we talked at the half, with the coaches that are coming into the Big Ten this year, Matt Campbell is a heck of a coach. That's who Penn State should have went for at the start. If you listen to people. Kyle Winningham is a beast of a coach. I hated to see him go to Michigan, and while Fitzgerald had some moments that didn't look good the last couple of years, he's won a Big Ten West title, and he's at Michigan State, and what's his face out in UCLA has won at lower levels. So you're talking 3 experienced, sure things. And one guy who may or may not be the next big thing. Big Ten's gotten a lot tougher.
It has. And that's why I said to you at halftime and to our listeners, you know what? You better be able to recruit well, high school talent, develop it, and recruit out of the portal, because everybody's coming and everybody has money now. So it's not just we can sit here and think, okay, well, we can talk about 15 million or 25 million. Other schools have the same thing. So there's got to be something different. There has to be, whether it be the message that, that they portray. And obviously Brett Bielema is really good. Actually, when you look at all the coaches at Illinois, when you talk specifically the ones that we cover the most, women's basketball, men's basketball, and football, they're all salesmen. They're all good at public speaking, and they're really good at going out and selling the school to these students, and you can talk about Brad Underwood, why kids want to be there for him, and players are talking about Shauna Green and why they want to be there for her, so that's the difference that you're going to have if you want to continue to build and to be able to, because Illinois is going to have to compete against Iowa and Wisconsin, in those programs in Washington. You're going to have to go out and try to, okay, why are we better? Why should you come to Illinois and not those schools?
Yeah, that differentiation is important. And as we talk, I guess I also feel like we need to bring up Hank Beatty, Rochester native, widely regarded as the second best athlete to come out of Rochester behind Brad Sturdy. We Brad's no longer paying attention to
there it is.
There it is. So Hank had a nice out, last game. Brad, if they had just a half a second, a quarter of a second more of a block on that pass, I think that would have been a huge play. Hank just didn't have time to get it. He just didn't have time to get set to get it over to Luke.
No, I agree. That would have been Luke had a wall. I don't know if you could see it on TV, but there were 4 guys out in front of him. Yeah. If he catches that ball, he could do cartwheels down the sideline and have scored. I mean, Mike, you could have run in there and scored with your speed. So
I don't know. I forgot what my sundial time is.
Well, you probably pulled both hamstrings, so that would have been bad. But no, it was there. I thought, the one thing that gets missed with Hank, everybody knows Hank's the go-to guy. So there was a play where they ran the play that they threw to the tight end to get it to the 2-yard line. Luke pump faked to Hank over here, and the guy bit, and then he immediately threw down tight end Arkin on the 2. Well, that was because the guy bit up on Beatty. So those are little things. So when you have a guy like that, and Barry Lenny does a really good job of this, people say, well, he should get the ball more, and I get that. He had 6 catches tonight. He's only targeted like 7 times, but he had 1 run, I think. But the thing is, he acts as a decoy multiple times, and then one of his catches was because he was the decoy and they didn't cover him. So Luke just said, "Okay, here you go. I'll throw it to you." So yeah, there's a lot of those plays that happen that are part of that. So he's definitely an offensive weapon. The disappointing thing for me is I think Hank's a fantastic punt returner. I think he can punt return at the next level, but he never gets the opportunity. One, because Illinois defense didn't get a lot of stops this year, and when they didn't get turnovers, and then 2, because a lot of times they don't kick to him. Like tonight, Tennessee didn't kick a ball that he could have run back. Even when they punted. So it's interesting.
What is that comment that Cookie's talking about? Did you see that? No handshake after the game. ESPN cut the broadcast right away for us.
I saw everybody converge in the middle. I did not see that happen. I don't know. Well, I know there's something. I know. I think Bielema made the comment. I'm not sure what it was referring to. That kind of after the game. I know. But that was interesting. But I don't know. I think there is some animosity there a little bit. Like I don't know whether it is. I mean, I think Brett has a tendency to rub his opponents the wrong way a little bit, because he is the ultimate troll. He would be like the Larry Bird of trash talking. You know what I mean? Like almost like so.
A professional trash talker. That's what he is.
Yep. No, I thought the uniforms, by the way, for Fedigator, uniforms, they're 9 out of 10 for me. I loved them tonight. They look fantastic. The only guys that looked bad were the guys that didn't have the blue socks and had white short socks on. They looked like they were a person who forgot their socks and didn't have all their uniform. But other than that, yeah, everybody looked good. I thought the helmets were fantastic too.
The one ref who got in the way was it's like,
how about that?
That's going to make some highlights. You can bet that.
Hey, that was a great. See Luke looking back at him, almost saying, "Sorry, dude."
I think I killed a ref.
My bad. Stripes.
Football players wait their whole life to lay out a ref, and then it happens accidentally. Yeah, I
legally laid out the ref.
Yeah. Well, and look, folks, we are literally 2 days, 3 days from Portal Combat opening up. What a great way for Brett Bielema to position the Illini football program for the transfer portal than to have a game like this. Basically it's a road game against Tennessee. And by the way, Tennessee had guys who opted out. I don't know if any of you guys realize that, but if you listen to the broadcast, you did. And the funny thing was there was a couple times that Matt Bailey would have stopped things. And there was never any, hey, we got an injured player there, but we heard about all their injured. We heard about all the Tennessee injured players. You didn't hear about, when Sabor Kareem going to be a really good player, but miss a tackle. There was no mention that Matthew Bailey would have pasted that guy. And I thought there were at least 2 big gains there that he made a big difference by him not being there. And in fairness, I think Tennessee was a younger team tonight. I thought they played pretty well. Clearly, there's a difference when you have a recruiting classes of mainly 4-stars. They had a lot of talent on that team. I just think Illinois was better coached, and maybe not by a lot, but by enough to get a W on the board when most people kind of thought Tennessee would be the team that would be the one that had the advantage.
Mike, to your point about the ESPN thing that you and I keep talking about, it makes sense, and I understand why ESPN is upset. I understand why they're mad. It's a business decision. I've noticed it not just with Illinois. So this was not directed to Illinois, but it's a Big Ten and SEC thing. And to be honest with you, I kind of like it. because we cover Illinois, obviously, and so we're in the Big Ten, and when Illinois, anybody in the Big Ten can beat an SEC opponent, that's always great for the conference. And, Mike was asking, right before you got on, he was hoping that they would go to Brett Bielema, even though we know the USC and TCU game was on. None of that happened, and I'm not saying it's because of that, but there's no love loss. It's a business decision, and I can't blame the Big Ten for what they did, because you might have to pay for some of these streaming services, and I get it, and I'm not a fan of it either. But if you go recruit a kid from Florida or from California, you're going to be able to see every one of your kids' games. That didn't happen 10 years ago or 7, 8 years ago. Now with the Big Ten Network and FS1 and all the channels and Peacock and all these things, you can see every game. If you really want to see every game, you can make that happen.
Yeah, this is a great boon for recruiting. At the same time, I can't get over. This is the ultimate end for Luke Altmaier, the ultimate finish. This is just the great way to finish it. And Luke's quote at the podium, I don't know if you guys heard it. He said, "I'm just proud to play in the best conference in America."
Oh, that a boy, Luker.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, that's all you could. I mean, this guy. I mean, he's an Illini legend. I mean, he should never pay. Luke Altmaier should never pay for another beer in Champaign for the rest of his life. And if anybody lets him pay for a beer, then we're gonna have to make a change. So
yeah.
So that's a bad thing. By the way, somebody's asking about next year. Let's do a podcast next week. We'll talk about next year. Let's enjoy this one, right? I mean, let's talk about this year and recap what a fantastic season it was to go, to finish on a win, to back-to-back 9-win seasons, first time ever. This is special. I mean, I was going to say before the game I was talking about this. We are in what we would call the golden age of Illinois football right now.
Correct.
I mean, this is it, boys.
Correct.
This is it. This is 3 bowl games. 3 out of the last 4 years, 8+ wins, back-to-back years of 9+ wins. You're seeing a team that's been consistently getting some ranking respect. They're starting to get that respect of a team because Brett Bielema's teams. I mean, you look at his history; he's good. Like, he's a good coach. We may not agree with everything he does, but he has a system and he has a style. Just like we may not like, the way a coach does something. Some people, Mike Leach ran the air raid. Some people didn't like that. We need 3 yards. I caught it us. Let's go. It's whatever it is. But everybody's got a different style. But his style is complementary football. They're going to run the football. And what you saw this game was him. Think about how they were able to run the ball in the fourth quarter and move the ball down the field because they had time of possession, because they took their time. They were patient on offensively, and they were very efficient on the offensive side of the ball. I got one thing from a football standpoint, just kind of a thing. Go back and look at Illinois' first down plays and how successful they were on first down. That's why you get off the field. If not for those 4 false starts in the first 10 minutes, I mean, they're going 1st and 15, and they wouldn't have scored more. So I'm just, we need to enjoy what we have right now. Enjoy what you have right now, and I'm just ecstatic for Luke Altmaier, for Brett Bielema, and a lot of people are talking about the Tennessee opt-out players. I keep saying, well, Tennessee had this guy. The Big Ten sack leader opted out. Illinois' starting left tackle, who's a first 3-round pick, opted out. By the way, how about Napick? He didn't have any of the. He isn't the guy who had any of those false start penalties.
No,
he did a fantastic job.
To avoid doing it.
Yeah, I mean, somebody had, and then he also did a fantastic job blocking today. I mean, like we said, Luke had a good thing. So this was huge, and so you're starting to see Matt Bailey, who's leading tackler, doesn't play. So a lot of people didn't play for us, for Illinois too. So this is not just that. Illinois went out and they got the job done.
Was it Mike? Brad, that's one of the things that Mike mentioned. The ESPN refused to mention those statistics that you just gave. They didn't want to mention that part of it, and it's time to give Brett Bielema some credit as well. When he first got to Illinois, he was a 70% run pass team. Mike and I used to get on the podcast, more or less me, not so much Mike. I was frustrated with that. He's evolved. The game has changed from what it was like when he was at Wisconsin, when you just ran Ron Dane, for 1,000 yards a game. Illinois is passing the football now. If you look at Illinois now, this is not the same type of quote-unquote offense that Brett Beaton was used to running. Maybe it's because Barry Lunny Jr. is a great offensive coordinator and he's convinced him to do something different, and when you look at the whole big picture, at the end of the day, when you win, when you lose, it's the coach's fault. Everybody wants to blame a coach, but when you win, you need to give them credit. Chris McIntosh and a couple other people here made the comment about giving Coach B his credit and Luke Altmyer. I mean, I don't know, and I know somebody's going to give us the statistic. The last time Illinois had a quarterback to play 3 straight years, I don't know. Was it Nathan Schillhouse? Was that who it was? Did he start 3 straight years? I mean, that's been years ago. So it tells you what Luke Altmyer was to the program. And hearing him say that, Brad, he's thankful to play in the best conference in college football. There's probably some sarcasm, but there's truth to it. The Big Ten is back. It's there.
Well, and look, it's really interesting to see that evolution, even to the point where look at this. I mean, Bielema trusted Olano enough to give him kind of a magic moment as well. He's had a couple moments this year, which to his credit, he has cashed in on. But boy, Bielema's done a heck of a job setting him up for when he decides to go to the NFL, because he's had several game-winning kicks that again, to be a great kicker, you have to make those kicks, but you also have to be in the position to get them.
Oh, for sure. It's funny. I'm listening to actually Altmyer talk right now. It's interesting, when you you have to take advantage of the opportunities you get, and that's what you did. You know what I mean? Like David Olano, I was watching him. So pregame, this wind was tough too. You saw the Tennessee kicker miss. This wind was a tough wind, but Olano drove that right down the middle. They set him up right in the middle too. But there had been, he was trying from I think it was 45, going that same direction, and he duck hooked the first one because in warm-ups, and he went back and did it again. He drilled it, and he got there, but it was only about 49, 50 yards tops. So he knew he was going in the wind. He knew he had to hit it solid, even that short kick. You can't miss hit it. And he stepped up and got it done. So big props for him. By the way, can I just talk about one more thing? You guys have all coached. You have those players that are special to you. You spend a lot of time with them. This is one of the hardest things. It's when you have a guy who leaves, who's been there like Luke has, who you're so close with. This is one of the hardest things in coaching, win or lose. I mean, I once told, I was coaching one time and we lost a state championship game, and I was had some tears in my eyes. My wife said, "It's okay." And I said, "I'm not crying because we lost. I said, I'm crying because I don't get to coach these guys again." And I think that's the hardest thing for this right now. I mean, it's such a great moment, but you can hear it in Bielema's voice. I mean, like he loves these guys. I mean, these guys are special to him. And this is, to know it's going to be the last time, kudos to those guys for just leaving it all out on the court, or on the field rather. And, they didn't run Luke as much early, but you saw at the end of the game, they wanted him to be healthy so he could be upright. But he was going all. You notice he didn't take any slides either. Yeah. It was all head first dives. He was like, "This is my last game, baby. I'm going out I'm going out full bore." So,
well, you look at what Brett's built, and he built it largely with some help from Luke Altmyer, and that's got to be a special thing, because when Brett came in here, let's face it, this was a poo-poo show. There's just no way around it. It was a poo-poo show when Brett Bielema took over, and then he had Altmyer along with a lot of other players who helped move this program up. And when they leave, it's like a partner. It's like a tag team partner who's going their own direction. And Bielema, clearly every year when the seniors leave, it's a very tough year for him, because he actually gets emotionally invested in his players, which is why I will tell you one thing, as well as I do. You guys have all seen coaches that these players will be close to Brett till the day they die or the day he dies. They will. I think that's one of the attractions to being a player at Illinois. Ked, you talked about that a lot, but I think it's a real thing.
Mike, you just answered the question you asked me. I mean, let's think about it. You have a coach up there who's emotional, and I think Brett is now he's more humble. When he was at Wisconsin, he was very, young, and we've all been young and arrogant. I'm still that way, and I'm old and whatever sometimes, I guess. But my point is, he grew up, and it is, again, you answered your question. He is really, really close to these kids. And I'm going to tell you now that his season's over, I got a chance to golf with Luke last year. And I'm going to tell you, he is what you see and things that you hear about him, it's so true. I remember because, obviously I'm a media guy. And I had Iowa players there. So because I'm a media guy, I was in front of his group and I lost my hat, because I don't have any hair to keep it on. And twice Luke Altmaier brought my hat back to me, when he could have left it because he knew who I was. And then there was a contest on one hole. It was a shooting contest on one hole, and I had my kids with me who are obviously better shooters than I am right now. And he talked to them like he knew them his whole life. This is a special kid. Brad mentioned that Luke shouldn't have to pay for a beer. Luke shouldn't have to pay for anything when it comes to champagne, a hotel room, anything, because if Illinois is going to continue this ride and continue this success, he is a big reason why. And I'm going to tell you, if Brett was smart, which we all know he is, anybody they want from the SEC country down there, he should be a part of that phone conversation telling them why you should come to Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple stats here that I was just made aware of, but Brad kind of hit on this a little bit, but Tennessee managed 28 points and 278 yards today. They averaged 40.1 points a game and 482 yards. So Illinois held them 200 yards, essentially under their average, and basically 12 points under their average. But one of those touchdowns was a kickoff return. Aguilar, Illinois sacked him 4 times. To me, this was the biggest surprise, but they sacked him 4 times. He was only sacked 17 times in 12 games, and Illinois got him 4 today. That's the one bet. If you would have told me that that Illinois is going to sack him 4 times, I would have told you you're living in a dream world.
That's kudos to Aaron Henry, though. This is what everybody wanted to fire, and he's growing, he's getting better. And I'm going to tell you, when it was a crucial play on offense or defense, you didn't see Brett's mouth move at all. He has full confidence in him. You know what? There's a comment on here. This is great for me because I'm kind of bitter with some of the Big Ten teams. But from now on, found from a Buckeye fan, giving the Big Ten and Illini some credit. It's hard for me in bowl season because I am really, really aggressively rooting for the Big Ten against the SEC schools and ACC when they were dominant in basketball because it matters from a recruiting standpoint, and it's nice to see, even in basketball, like I'm really glad to see when Illinois beat Tennessee in basketball, when they beat Missouri, that stuff matters because you use it as a recruiting tool. There's no way you shouldn't use it as a recruiting tool. All the schools.
Well, and I got to be honest with you. I dislike that Pavia kid so much that I'm actually going to root for Iowa tomorrow. I've never done that before. And then the only team I refuse to root for is Michigan. But I do love Kyle Whittingham now. But Michigan, I'm sorry, when these fans, when you got a guy who's figured out a way to that your team understands what play's coming at him, and your record is so good when he's there and so bad when he leaves and before he was there, and yet they try to act like this is no big deal that everybody does it that way. So I'm on an anti-Michigan thing. I can't help it. I'm like a 2-year-old. But
well, we may all have that team. For me, I would root for every team in the Big Ten at this point. The only team, and I have no problem rooting for Iowa. And I know the people in the Quad Cities who listen to our show are probably driving off the road or thinking, what the hell am I thinking? I cannot. If there's one fan base that makes me throw up, it's Purdue. I cannot. I'm done. I can't deal with them. I've been on Twitter, and I have a pretty decent following. But if you say anything wrong, if you spell their name wrong, you're going to get assassinated. I can't deal with them, man. They are the toughest fan base ever.
Well, kid, you kept spelling it Perdon't. I'm so
and you know what it stems from? It's like it's because of the competition with Brad Underwood and Matt Painter. Let's do the math. We've all heard this. Matt Painter and Brad Underwood, they're two of the winningest coaches.
Yeah, and Painter doesn't like Underwood.
I know. Oh, he doesn't. And all the Purdue fans listening, it's not a secret. He doesn't. And that's why, I mean, to me, that is the one game I seriously, I better not say it, but I'll put it to you like this. I talk to those parents, man, during the season and off season, but when they play Purdue, I'm like, whatever that extra momentum you have to your kid, that super medicine, give it to them, the Purdue game.
If Illinois beats Purdue, kid's going to run naked through Rock Island. So that's
I'm going to tell you right now. No, I'm going to get online and do it on one of these podcasts, baby.
Now, for the first time ever, I don't think I want Illinois to win.
Go Purdue. No, so I like the Big. I want the Big Ten to win the bowl games. I always want the Big Ten to win in bowl games. I don't know, it just looks better. NCAA tournament, I want them to win, except for Illinois. I want Illinois to beat them, obviously, but I mean, when they're not Illinois, so I think it's fun. So, but obviously, when you're in conference, it's different.
Is there anybody who's any better with the microphone than Brett Bielema when he wants to be? Did you guys hear his comment when he was given the guitar? And he said, we're going to treat it a little
He just called out the SEC just now. Hey, Bielema just called out the SEC in his presser. He said, SEC's what, like 0-4 and we're 5-0 or something like that. I don't know. I guess it's good propaganda.
Yeah, and that's what Mike said. He is a bad boy. He's so intelligent. Because the fact of the matter is, you can't argue it. It's right. And I'm pulling for all of them. Like I said to you, I really truly am. I know what I said about Purdue, but I don't think they're going to a bowl game again.
How about if we get Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State in the Final Four?
Somebody mentioned that.
As long as Georgia doesn't win, I'm all for it.
Who's Georgia play? Ole Miss. So you're going to get one. The only way SEC can win, I guess, they play each other. So
that would be awesome to have SEC get Alabama lose and then have Georgia lose after they beat Ole Miss, because they're gonna take it to the bank. Well, how many times in our predictions have we heard me say that, Brad? But take it to the bank. Georgia
a lot,
is beating Ole Miss.
And it always happens. That means I'm betting on Ole Miss when we get off this show.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what. What's crazy is PJ Fleck is got a 7-game bowl winning streak at Minnesota. That's the beauty of finishing down at the bottom of the Big Ten, is you get those bowl games where it's not so scary when you get to go out and play, because you're not playing SEC team.
We pounded Western Michigan in our bowl game.
Again.
We beat New Mexico on a last-second field goal, 17-14. Yes. No, this is what, and I guess, you know what, though? That's the difference Illinois made here.
Yes.
They have moved from playing those kind of games to being happy. We were happy. We just want to be. You're beating Tennessee. Freaking Tennessee is a big-time program. This is one of the biggest programs in football. They've won national titles. They're in the playoff last year. This is, the home of Peyton Manning, right? This is, I don't know. It just seems like,
you know what?
Different level, right?
Illinois has gone through. Tennessee just signed a new deal with Adidas, and that's why they're spending all this money. So I think Josh Whitman needs to call up Nike and say, hey, if we lose a guy to Tennessee, it's because of that Adidas money. You don't want your opponents to pick us dry.
Yep.
Let's go Nike. Fork it over, baby. But that's always yeah, you know what? I did not see how many games Northwestern has won. So some things I just can't do. That's it, Taterhead. Can we? Hey, Illinois knows Michael Jordan, so let's start making it happen. Let's sign with the Jordan brand, and there we go.
And Bill Murray, even though he sold to UConn a little bit, but they do know him too. We need some of that money. They need some of that Indiana Hoosier money.
Ellison, Robert Johnson, Shad Khan, a lot of options.
Mark Andreessen. Yeah, and the fun thing about getting the billionaires involved is none of these guys loses in life. So when they put the money down, they put down enough to win. So it will be fun when who's got the biggest patron saint or the most patron saints. And Illinois can compete with just about anybody, until you get to just a few schools when it comes to that. So
that's because there's about 6 schools that they sell their kids to get money for the football program.
Yeah.
Whatever they can do, right? I'm going to mortgage my house so we can get that quarterback. So,
yeah. So we need both Larrys. So that's Larry Ellison and Larry Smith, Illini guy.
Yeah.
Well, make sure we tell him that.
Yeah. Larry will be very happy about that. Northwestern has won 6 consecutive bowl games. Well, Taterhead, if you thought that was going to make me feel better, it doesn't. I'm just happy Illinois has won 2, and maybe we'll rip off a good 10 or 15 bowl stretch or a postseason stretch. It'll include a national title run. Mark Andreessen, if you want to donate, please give me a call. I'll be the middleman. I'll facilitate it for you. But yeah, we need that. Are they done with the press conference there, Brad?
Just finished. Yeah.
Just finished. Okay. So we got a couple minutes. I'm going to let's try to tread water. And then when Matt gets on, you guys can jump off. And then I'll probably cut this into 2 podcasts so that people don't have to go quite that long. So we got Portal Combat coming up. You guys have any ideas on what you think Illinois could be looking for in the portal next year?
I do. Obviously, we know they're going to be looking at quarterback, but the line play, I hate to say this, but linebacker needs some help as well. I do. I think they need linebacker. I think they're going to be okay in the safety department. But I would like to see the line play develop because they're going to run the football and run clock. You have to be really, really good at that. I know actually on both sides of the ball. I don't think it should be hard to recruit, given Brett Beadham's long-term history with line play, but I think that's huge. And obviously, we all know the quarterback. You have to go into the situation to every game with the quarterback. With Luke Altmaier being on that field, you have a chance to win every single game. You need another guy like that.
Hey, to Beetle Snap 156, just remember, Illini Guys 316 says the Illinois Fighting Illini just whipped your ass. So too bad.
It's not a depleted. You know what? Listen, fella.
So is Illinois. So is Illinois.
I got it. I know the SEC heads.
But see, here's what he doesn't understand. He obviously wasn't at the game. So, I'm going to give you some credit, Mr. Beetleman, Snaphead 1,600. The ESPN never mentioned the Illinois players being missing. But if you want to tweet at one of us, we can tell you. If you scroll back up, you have the capability of seeing. I think Chris McIntosh posted on here who was missing. Both teams had players missing. There it is right there. The Big Ten sack leader. So you can say whatever you want about it being a down year. Illinois was missing their leading tackler, the leading sack guy. So there it is right there. Thank you, Mike. So you can use that as an excuse all you want.
Well, one of the guys they were missing was mad in the offseason because he didn't get paid as much NIL as he wanted. So I guess from what I was told from the 2 previews is it got to the point where he was fielding – he's really good, but he was fielding punt returns and wouldn't return the ball because if he's not getting paid, he's not going to be returning punts. And they finally just kicked him off the team. So, oh, my God, that's depleted. And then you had 2 guys. One guy was out for the season. The other guy was out for the season in the 13th play of the season. So, again, I'm not saying that these aren't good players. I'm not saying that Tennessee wasn't missing people. But Illinois had 2 key guys opt out, plus guys like Matthew Bailey who couldn't play because of an injury, and so this was hardly a one person thing. And the thing that's hilarious about it is it always ends up being, if the SEC wins, it's like, oh my God, look how great they are. And then if the SEC loses, we weren't really trying. It's just a bowl game.
Oh, he's talking about the whole season. Well, I mean, you guys can help me, but I know we're missing a cornerback the whole season. I get what you're saying, but in bowl season,
Look, Illinois was down to their 8th defensive back against Indiana. I mean, and guys were out all year long. I mean, come on.
It's football, and I understand what you're saying, but I mean, in fairness, like I said, the ESPN did not mention the guys that were out for Illinois, and I understand why, but it mattered for both teams. So, and you're going to get that unless you're in the college playoffs, and the guys that we mentioned that covered that's going to Illinois. We know they're probably going to go to the NFL. So just like you, we're missing guys who are good enough to go.
Brad, you got any thoughts on that, or did we sum it up with all the logic?
Summed it up. Here's the thing: you can't reason with unreasonable people. It is what it is. So you're not gonna change anybody's mind here. If they were like if they're an SEC head, they're just gonna believe that it just means more. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and look, the bottom line is Tennessee's a good team, and they should be. To be honest with you, they should be a better team than Illinois because they have classes between 8 and 20 every year, and Illinois has classes between 35 and 48. How is Brett Bielema managing to win these games over teams like South Carolina and Tennessee that supposedly have such better players?
Eye talent, going out recruiting kids that other people don't, and developing players. He has a good system. We're not sitting here saying that he's the best coach in college football, but from where Illinois has been and where they are right now, I think the fans are happy with him, with what he's done to the program. He's good with the media. He's great with the kids, and they're winning. I mean, I'm going to be truthful with you. And I don't know how long, you've been listening, Beetle Snap, but Illinois wouldn't have had a chance to even consider playing against a Tennessee team to begin with, because it never happened. They were always playing junior high teams if they were able to get 6 wins, and lucky enough to go to a bowl game. Now they're competing against South Carolina, winning 10 games and 9 games, and so that's where we are. And Illinois fans are surely aware this is a long, long process, but they're on the right track.
Yep. And Roll Tide will be interesting. I think that is the most fascinating matchup of the weekend. Will Indiana be able to put a beating on Alabama? Because if Indiana doesn't play well, Alabama has the talent to rise up and beat anybody. So to me, I don't know about you, Brad, but this weekend's matchups, I think Indiana-Alabama is the one that I'm the most excited about.
Because people have the Alabama history, and they don't. When you see Indiana, no matter what they're doing, people still don't believe the hype with them.
I agree, and that's what Signetti, right? Signetti is going to be pumping his guys up on they don't respect us.
Hey, I just saw a statistic on ESPN there. Tennessee's lost to. This was the first time they lost to an unranked team all season.
Yeah, because they all start being ranked.
They didn't beat a Power 4 team with a winning record.
Who they think they are, Missouri? Yeah, I think the I'll see if I can, because then we'll kind of wrap up. We'll kind of wrap up this section, but I do think that there is an awful lot of the SEC starts off with all their teams, 8 or 9, 10 teams ranked at the start of the season. So it's pretty easy then to end up, beating ranked teams. There's about 3 or 4 of them that don't need to be ranked. So, that's just is what it is.
I'm really curious to see if Illinois be ranked at the end of the season. And I'll tell you guys who are listening to the show and you don't have access to it, USC is in a game against TCU. So, it's going to be a tough one. TCU looks like they're really fast and athletic. It's early, second quarter, but, obviously we just talked about rooting for Big Ten schools, but they're in for a battle.
Yeah, and here's what I wanted to show, if I can get it to come up. Right here, when you take a look at this image, this kind of illustrates when you take a look at LSU versus Minnesota over the last 4 years, LSU and Minnesota almost the same record. Same record versus FCS, almost, really close. Same thing with G5. FBS teams, almost identical. Record versus P4 and P5, almost identical. Record versus AP ranked, almost identical. One team has been ranked for 46 weeks, and the other team has been ranked for 1. Why? Because LSU's in the SEC, and they got the ranking, and everybody, ooh. And Minnesota on the field over that 4-year period has been very similar. They just aren't ranked. So teams that beat Minnesota can't point to it and go, look at that, we beat a ranked team. But for the same performance level, all these SEC teams can point to LSU and say, hey, we beat a ranked team. So by my way of thinking, that's where I look at it and I say, yeah, there are advantages to being that. And if the Big Ten gets better, maybe the Big Ten will get that advantage over time.
The Big Ten, what needs to happen is the bottom teams, and Illinois has been there. I can't say that they haven't been. You need Wisconsin to be good again. You need Northwestern to become good again. I'm not worried about Penn State. They're going to take care of their own. But you need everybody in the conference, if possible, to try to at least get to 6 wins and to schedule some good teams in the non-conference and beat some of those teams and continue to try to win some of these bowl games. Because the Big Ten and the SEC, no matter what we like, and we can bash on the SEC all we want, the Big Ten and the SEC are always going to get the benefit of the doubt with the most bowl teams. That's so it's going to be.
Yep. So ultimately, folks, we are still waiting and see if Matt is going to be coming on. And then I'm going to give him another couple minutes here. And if not, we may do a podcast tomorrow or something to kind of go over a recap of the what's going on. And Wisconsin would be good if the AD gave them money. I think that's an interesting. If I found out that was the problem, that the AD had chosen not to give money, I wouldn't have that AD anymore. I'm a little bit surprised that he survived that, but it is what it is. So that could be something above him. Back in the day, when Donna Shalala and Barry Alvarez were there, along with Pat Richter, they were a triangle of power to make sure that the football team and then the basketball team did well. And you can see, Ked and I grew up, Wisconsin was an automatic W in basketball and football. And then the last 30 years, they've been one of the toughest teams in the country. I see no reason why, if Josh Whitman wants to stick around that long with who he hires, football and basketball, I see no reason why Illinois can't make it to that level.
Well, they could, and I don't know if fans remember or not, but one of the main reason, from my understanding and my sources, Brett Bielema left Wisconsin because he wanted his assistant coaches to get a pay raise, and they wouldn't give it to him. So that was one of the big reasons. And obviously at Illinois, that's not an issue because if you Google, you can clearly see the highest paid football coaches. Illinois coaches are paid well. I'm sorry, they are. And they're performing. Let's look at you look at the numbers. Under was ranked in the top 20. The women are 12-1, off to the best start in the history of the school. Shauna Green's been paid well. Brett Bielema's won back-to-back bowl games and first time in school history. I just don't want people to forget about this. And you see a basketball game Saturday when Illinois plays Penn State in men's basketball to forget about this football season. The young people out there, you should really relish this because we remember the days of you win 6 games one season, the next 7 or 8 you might win 2 or 3. And it was. This is probably one of the most embarrassing things I remember growing up. Was Memorial Stadium used to hold over 70,000 people. I don't know if people realize that. Well over 70,000 people, and it was so bad to where, Mike, I don't know if you remember this or some of the other older people, they started putting blue tarps on the first 4, 5 to 10 rows to try to hide the lack of fan support that was there. Now that's no longer an issue because fans are coming to the game. But that tells you how bad the football program has been because now the stadium only holds 60-something thousand. And I wish they could get it back to 70,000 because I think that's a huge advantage. But my point is that's how bad Illinois football has been.
Yeah, and, we'll see. There have been some teams losing at the bottom of the top 25. Will Illinois move into the top 25 or even inside of the top 20? It'll depend a little bit on the results as they come in, but I think we will be in a position where Illinois has an opportunity to break that top 25. It'd be great to get in there. And so that's one of the key, factors. Again, you want to sell this. It would be really nice to get a bowl win, beat an SEC team, have 2 9-win seasons in a row, another top 25 ranking, and then go out into the marketplace. I would tell kids, again, the money is important. We know that. I'd also tell them their ability to be coached and developed so they can make it in the NFL is important. This team is good at that. And enjoying what you're doing in life. We're all old folks. We know what it's like to have a job that you don't like, but you go to every day because they pay you. God, I'd hate to see a kid at 18 or 19 in that same situation when you could go to a place and enjoy it where the coaches are fun to play for and have to manage people. Now, I just found out Matt is on his way back, so we'll hang here for a couple more minutes, and then we'll bring Matt in. And I appreciate folks hanging on. Matt will give us an idea of what happened at the presser. Brad had to leave because he had to get he's got a flight out of Nashville at 5 tomorrow morning, and it's already 10:16, and he's still got to get out of the stadium and back to his hotel. Brad, of course, flying on the Illini guys Concorde jet, so he's got to be back at an early time. So that is why he had to bug out of there. I think he got the text from his wife saying you need to go. When it comes down to there's some interesting comments here, real quick. Brett left because he wanted better assistant coach pay.
Yeah,
and
I said that. Yep.
Yep, and Signetti, ironically, part of his big deal, he didn't just take care of himself, but he got, I think he has to have a top 5 assistant coach pool. So he has to look at the hiring of Chip Kelly and the hiring of Knowles, who's coming down to Tennessee to be the defensive coordinator after being at Ohio State and Penn State. And he's got to look going, hey, man, they're spending money, which means I'm spending money. So that's got to be a great feeling for Signetti, knowing that, he can go out and get the best. And it's until there's some rules in place that are legally defensible, it's going to be a dog eat dog world. And if you don't have cash flow, you're wearing milk bone underwear. So that's going to be something that is a challenge.
Well, I like Brandon Lampe's comments. I said that as well. When you ask what moving to next year, spend the money in the trenches and get linebacker help. Obviously a quarterback, but that is huge. The more and more you watch Brett Bielema coach football, those things that Brandon just mentioned are really, really important to the long-term success of the Illinois football program. Kudos to the guys from Wisconsin that transferred over as well, believing in Coach Bielema to have a chance to win and to play in a bowl game of this magnitude. It was great to see them get that done.
Yep, and now we got Matt on. Ked is going to drop out. Matt, we had people who were hanging on here,
Sure.
Geez, almost 4,000 people plus. Give us your assessment of what did you hear at the press conference? Anything there that would catch people's eye or ear? I heard Brett threw down on the SEC, so that's awesome.
He called it propaganda, which was that the Big Ten's now 5-0, and I think he said the SEC is somewhere he said 5-0, but he was like, we're undefeated, and I think the SEC is 1-4 or something.
2 and 4. They beat a G5 school and another SEC school.
Well, he forgot that he actually did beat Tennessee in Neyland 10 years ago. Brett had his numbers off by a little bit, but he did know that Illinois was 13-4 now in 1-score games, in his era. He nailed that one on the dot. But yeah, he called it propaganda, but he says sometimes propaganda is good propaganda. And I think you guys, if you watched the press conference from yesterday, when he talked about we went to 3 straight bowl games, and then I didn't go to one, and that wasn't good enough, and so they let me go, like, of the school in that league. I think he really gets a kick out of beating the SEC. He's now 2-0 at Illinois against the SEC. And so I do think that, this mattered to him. And then I do think that he sat there pretty damn satisfied that the plan that they created for over the last 2 weeks to beat a pretty good Tennessee team came to fruition. They wanted to control the game. They wanted to control the clock. They didn't want to give Tennessee a whole lot of possessions. They wanted to shorten the game. Like Heupel kept talking about that. They just shortened the game, and we didn't have a chance to really get a lot of chances offensively. And then offensively, short of a 96-yard kickoff return, I think everything in all 3 phases really worked out. And then they get that kickoff return. Tennessee takes its first lead of the day after the first drive, when they made it 7-0. They take the lead with 5 minutes to go, and you're thinking, well, it's not going to be Illinois' day. And you forget that Luke Altmaier 6 times previous has done this before. And that you should hear the guys talk about we knew we were going to go down and score. It was just a matter of if the game was going to end on a kick, or if, we had to put the defense back on the field. And I think a lot of people in our game room will laugh about this, but Miles Scott even said at the podium or at the table, he goes, I didn't want to go back out there as a defensive player. I wanted the game to end on David Alano's foot, because if it ends on David Alano's foot, I know we win. And so there's just an enormous amount of confidence. And Mike, I go back to like when, Brett Bielema was hired, and then you hired me on this beat. We talked a lot about situational football. We talked about football 101. We talked about how this team just can win games when a lot of other teams like to lose games and kind of, don't do fundamental things. That last drive, Bielema said that was just a picture perfect way of, kind of executing everything Bielema has talked about in terms of finishing off a game, doing everything fundamentally you're supposed to do, clock management, game management, all the things you're supposed to do in order for that game to end on David Alano's right foot. Was exactly what Illinois needed in that moment, and they got it. And I can't fathom that Luke's only been here 7 times or 3 years, and that's the 7th time he's basically done a fourth quarter comeback. He's done a John Elway where he's led the team down and scored. I can't imagine. He's played, what would that be, 37, 38 games at Illinois, and in 7 of those, he's led a fourth quarter comeback for a win, and that's just unfathomable, like, to think. But for Miles Scott to sit at the table and go, we knew we were going to win because Luke's done it. He's did it like 6 times before, is what he said. So we knew we were going to do it again. So there was just a lot of confidence, and I felt like for 60 minutes. The plan wasn't perfect like we executed, but it was executed pretty darn well in all 3 phases. I thought, again, special teams was a little choppy because of its 96-yard kickoff return, but everything else I thought was pretty well executed. And the plan that these guys the plan that Aaron Henry and the defensive staff came up with for the last 2 weeks to hold Tennessee under 300 yards for the first time in God knows when. That's the best offense in the SEC, Mike. The best offense, the most explosive offense in the SEC. And we come out of another bowl game just like we did last year in Orlando with Aaron Henry's defense smelling like a rose, because they, along with complimentary football, and we've talked about it a lot, and I know a lot of our subscribers and the people in our game room who are intense in our game room roll their eyes at complimentary football. Well, complimentary football and keeping the football in front of you on defense, and then getting takeaways and getting a turnover really, really helps. Really helped win this football game today, because there were Brett Bielema. What does Brett Bielema talk about all the time? Run the football. They ran the football today for over 200 yards, and complimentary football. Keep the ball in front of you. They did that today. Tennessee had 3 passing plays over 15 yards today. 3. That's not what Josh Heupel's offense is designed to do. This explosive offense was really held in check. And then special teams wise, yeah, they let a kickoff return, and that sucks. But every time they put it on David Alano's foot, good things happened. And even the one time I remember they punted, it ended well. So special teams wise, it wasn't a complete dud. It was just you failed the final exam, or you didn't do well, and you didn't do as well in the final exam because of the kickoff return. But I thought just overall, you saw if you give Illini, I mean, Mike, we've talked about this all the time with this coaching staff, but like if you give this coaching staff 2 weeks to prepare for somebody, you better come up with a good plan yourself, because they're going to execute at a level that's at an elite level, and I think that's what you saw today. I think it's a really, really impressive exhibition of what a properly prepared and a properly executed football team can accomplish.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Got the comment here from Bruce Schwartz. He does works at the stats and stuff for Illinois up at the scorers table at basketball games. One of the nicest guys you'll meet. And I'll tell you what, this is interesting because I'm old enough to have been around the university, and my dad worked there for years before that. But even under Mike White, it was really hard when you did well one season to follow up that next season. Right. It was just really hard. And John Makovic probably came the closest to doing that.
See, this is what I was going to go with, Mike, because I don't mean to cut you off, but I think the 5 years under Bielema now is you're seeing an indication of what would have happened if Makovic had stayed in Champaign-Urbana and not gone to Texas. I feel like the whole program would have been fully developed offensively and defensively, and Lou Tepper had a hell of a defense, but he couldn't score enough points. John Makovic was never going to let that happen. But I think you're seeing, the 5 years of Bielema has really, really put this program in a place that it hasn't been in a long time, and maybe not in my lifetime. And I think you're like, again, Mike, you've seen 2 weeks ago, I'm sure they sat in the Smith Center and said, hey, look, we've got to shorten this game. We've got to make it so that Tennessee doesn't have a lot of possessions. We've got to hold the football. We've got to be able to run the football. We're 13th in the Big Ten this year in running the football. That can't happen, on December 30th. We got to figure that out. And so it's not about sometimes X's and O's, but it's also about getting your players to execute what you're asking them to do. And I find it unbelievable. Like, I'm gonna put it to you this way: like, the defense gets a touchdown, and I find it unbelievable that the guy who created that strip sack is Joe Barna. Who was he playing for today? He was playing in place of Gabe Yakus today. So they found somebody in that 2 week period that they feel like is the next wave of talent, the young version of talent. He goes out there and makes a play and creates a defensive touchdown in a spot that Gabe Yakus would have been playing. I think that's phenomenal. I think that shows development, that shows coaching, and that shows kind of it gives you a snapshot indication of what Brett Bielema has been able to develop in the 5 years of this program. And I can't highlight to you, Mike, how much this win really like it did last year, Mike. You know what happened last year on New Year's Eve. Like, we had a lot of momentum for Illini football for a long, long time after this. It's not a college football playoff game, but for this program, I think you could see a lot of people, if Illinois does the right things in the offseason, have a lot of, emotional momentum built up when spring ball rolls around, and then especially when fall preseason camp roll around again sometime around August, like, just because of what happened today, because they saw some future out there. They not only saw the present, but they saw some future out there that they feel like they can do some really cool things. They ran for 200 yards today, Mike, and all three of those running backs are coming back. So, I mean, there's so many storylines that are going to come out of this that are going to keep me busy, but that's not important. I think it's going to keep Illini fans really, really invested in what's going on inside the Smith Center because of what they can accomplish when they put their mind to it. And what they can accomplish is stuff that happened, like an example of this is an example of what they can accomplish if they put their mind to it, and that's beating another really, really solid SEC program.
Yeah, and the other thing I think that's so critical is you've got this timing with Friday being the opening of the transfer portal.
Sure.
And Illinois is not going to have the deepest pockets. We know that.
Right.
But they are going to have a place that they are performing under this coach significantly higher than this historical mean of this program. Right. And they're going to have a place that, for the most part, players really like to be at. And those are two, and you're winning. So those are things that are just critical when you're looking at trying to attract talent.
Right.
It's a far cry from what we saw, before you started with that. It was Lovie Smith. You're trying to figure out, how do we avoid losing 63-0 to Iowa? That's a whole different set of problems. And again, I've said it time and time again. I didn't know Brett Bielema. I didn't think he was the perfect choice, but proved me wrong. And I'll tell you, if the university wants to make money for NIL, they ought to tape Brett Bielema doing his football 101 and put that out for people to watch, because your average high school football player, your average high school football parent would learn an awful lot by watching that, because that's how he wins. And there's no secrets there, but when he explains it that way, you're like, oh, I never really thought about that play in the first quarter that might be much more important than something that happens later in the game that I'm focusing on, like a referee throws a flag or what happens.
Well, I think to that point, Mike, quickly, that's why Bielema loves hosting the in-state football coaches convention, like inside the Smith Center. He does that every year, and they'll have high school coach day, like that they bring all the coaches in, like, and all of the staff gives presentations to these guys. But Brett Bielema gives it's why Brett Bielema loved coming here for the longest time, because they had the AFCA meetings here, all the American Football Coaches Association meetings at the Gaylord Opryland over here in Nashville all the time. So he could talk to his colleagues about how to, put a game plan together and how to do these integral things. I think, you're going to laugh when I say this, Mike, but sometimes I think we give Belichick a hell of a lot more credit than he might deserve in developing that out of Bielema, because he might have just already had it, and Belichick wanted to bring it to New England because he had it, right? And so
yeah,
I do think Brett Bielema has always operated on maybe the Hayden Fry principle, which is what he would call it, which is teams lose games. Not enough teams try to go and win games, but more teams lose games. And I thought I think Brett Bielema does a really, really good job of, number one, putting his guys in position that if they don't make mistakes, they always have a chance to win. And two, then you get to the fourth quarter where there's 5 minutes left to go and there's a drive, and you hand the ball to Luke Altmaier, and you have absolutely all the confidence in the world in this very young man who, because he's like, again, I'm quoting Miles Scott, he did it before 6 times. We knew he was going to do it for a 7th, and I just love the confidence that these older guys are playing with. And I just feel like this is what that has been built. I'm going to do a feature, later on, probably before I leave Nashville tomorrow, about, Mike, your lifetime. I'm 41. But in your lifetime, you talk about Bielema as a coach. I don't think that the senior class needs to look at any other senior class, maybe the 5th-year guys and the 4th-year guys, and think that they've done anything less in my lifetime in Illinois football. I think this is the best senior class in my lifetime. You talk about like a Dylan Rosiak, who got recruited and signed by Lovie and met Brett Bielema for the first time in December of 2020 after that Penn State game.
Yep.
At the end of 2020. He didn't know Brett Bielema. He didn't know who he was. He didn't care. And that was a big thing on – these guys bought in, and you could see it. And the idea of having 19 wins in 2 seasons, with the culmination of those 2 seasons being wins in big bowl games against quality SEC opponents, is just a massive thing for this program. I don't know what it'll mean when the portal opens up on January 2nd. This program has a lot to take care of. But I have a lot of confidence that the people in that building, and honestly, I have a lot of confidence that they've already been doing it, because, again, Brett Bielema came up with a plan that, hey, my pro personnel people in the building are going to run that, and my coaches are going to coach. My coordinators are going to coordinate. Like, I don't want them, intensely involved in the portal right now. I want them finishing out this season. And it was pretty cool to watch this defensive plan come to fruition today. I mean, I'll stop jibber jabbing, Mike, and
you got a question there from Fedigator.
Okay, but I wanted to get a point in that, like, all the Fire Aaron Henry stuff that's on our boards and in the game room, and all of our subscribers and Illini guys, and you guys are wonderful, and I love all of you. I swear to God I do. Maybe Aaron Henry ought to just coordinate a defense against a SEC schedule. because he's
Well,
2-0
here's
with
the
a pretty damn good, record against the SEC.
So here's the question I would ask you, because
Sure.
this is what people are rightly or wrongly, Aaron's taking a lot of heat, just like Tyler Underwood takes a ton of heat for the
Sure.
offense on that. So can you give me, and then we'll get back to Fetigator's
Sure.
question on left tackle. But can you give me the 3 football reasons that you think Aaron Henry is a good defensive coordinator, so we can take all this emotion stuff out of it? But you've covered SEC, you've covered Big Ten. Give us 3 reasons why you think he's good, and then that just stands for itself. And we'll move on.
I think there's still things that Aaron Henry's developing. I don't think I would look.
He's not a finished product, but he's a young guy,
and I wouldn't even put him in the top, tier of defensive coordinators in the league yet. And I think that's fair for Aaron. Here's what I think, Mike. I think if and I'm pettifogging 2 really, really good performances by Aaron Henry, and I know I'm doing that. But if you take the Citrus Bowl of last year and this bowl game today, okay, what I think Aaron Henry decided to do in both of those games that I thought was brilliant, and it really bothers a lot of our subscribers. They basically decided, and I mean by they, Aaron Henry, Terrence Jamison, Archie McDaniel, and, oh, by the way, their boss, Brett Bielema, has all year long said, okay, if we keep backpedaling in the secondary and do not let guys throw it over the top, we have a better chance of winning than if we play the other way. And the way that you do that, Mike, and you've talked about it intensely after the games with me, off air, on the boards, the way you can effectively do that is having a defensive line that goes and eats. And I thought today this defensive line went and ate a bunch today. James Thompson played the best game he's ever played in an Illini uniform today.
Yep.
Joe Barna, I just mentioned Joe Barna, who was replacing Gabe Yakas, I thought played out of his mind today, and that is a young man who this staff really, really likes, and they think really, really highly of. He created a defensive touchdown today. You had Dylan Rosiak, I thought played really, really well today. I thought
Brown played well.
I thought Daniel Brown played really, really well today. I thought Malachi Hood played really, really well today. And then you had guys in the back make tackles. You had guys like Torrey Cox make tackles. You had guys like they put in Tyler Strain. He makes tackles. Mac Resetich made tackles today. And the idea was they decided in the Smith Center 2 weeks ago, if we keep everything in front of us, Tennessee wants to throw the ball over the top. That is what they do. They run 4 verts. They run their wide splits the way they do because they want to get 4 wide receivers vertically down the field. They want to run these long routes where they throw the ball deep with Joey Aguilar and they beat you over the top. And the reason they do their 4 verts is because it allows the running game to work, because the middle of the field is now wide open. So now if you can get it blocked up a little bit, now you've got a whole crease that can go for like 20 yards, right?
Yep.
And when that happens, guess what? The defense just keeps walking up, and then what do? They throw it over the top, and then you get a 50-yard touchdown. Miles Scott said it perfectly. I mean, you're talking about a veteran. These guys talk like their coach. Some of these guys talk like their coaches, and he's like, they didn't want to run the ball. He goes, it was crazy. He says, because they were running the ball on us. He says that's how they scored their touchdown in the fourth quarter, right? They just ran the ball down our throat and dog walked it all down the field, but they didn't want to do that. It frustrated them that they had to do that because they want to throw the ball vertically down the field. Well, we're not going to let them do that. So what I thought Aaron Henry did today and in the Citrus Bowl with Lenore Sellers was essentially he takes their opponent's right hand and he ties it behind their back, and they said, you know what, you're going to beat us with your left hand. And if you can do that, great.
So that's Bill Belichickian, right?
Right. What I don't think Aaron Henry did effectively enough is get really, really good play from his defensive line and really, really good play from his linebackers all year long for whatever reason. And so if you're not good up front, you can't play off a lot.
Yeah.
Brett Bielema mentioned it. What I think a lot of people in our boards might get wrong a lot is like, well, they're playing zone and they're backing up and they're giving so much cushion. They're giving cushion because they're playing man. I think Aaron Henry, like in the games against South Carolina and the games against Tennessee, has decided, hey, let's play a little bit of zone. Let's see how zone looks to this team and see if it really confuses them and screws them up. He doesn't play a lot of zone. If you look at the analytical data that I see, you'll see that Aaron Henry, just like Ryan Walters, Mike, plays like 90% man. But in order to do that, if you don't have Xavier Scott like for 2 months, you've got to give a lot of cushion, because you're not going to let that young corner or that corner that's coming off of an injury like Jaheim Clark, you're not going to put him in a situation like the Purdue game where they're getting beat deep over the top and it's wide open down the sidelines and you're giving up big plays. They don't want to do that. So I think Aaron Henry's got to find a better mix of figuring out how to maybe play more zone. And I think this program still needs to go find guys up front that can go dominate.
Yeah.
And go find more Johnny Newtons and go find, more Keith Randolphs and go find, some guys like the way that James Thompson played today, the way that Angelo McCullum played today, those guys up front that created 7 tackles for loss and 4 sacks and a defensive touchdown. If you can find those guys, then you can play a little bit different in the back. But right now, they found themselves to be really hamstrung with what they had up front, which was developing. And then they lose Xavier Scott, and they're like, "Oh, okay, now we've got to be really careful about what we do in the back." So, I do think that Aaron Henry does a really, really good job. 1, of recruiting the state of Florida, and 2, making it with his safeties. Look, his position room is safety, where I think Miles Scott has transformed himself into an unbelievable player over his 4 years, going from a walk-on wide receiver. And then Matthew Bailey is somebody that they think is an NFL player. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think that he does a really good job of developing secondary talent individually, get better every year. But I don't think that they came up with the perfect system once Xavier Scott came down of like, okay, we can get aggressive here, but what do we do in the back? He never found the right combination there all year long. But you put these 2 bowl game performances up. I joked with somebody walking back up to the press box, Mike. I know this is long-winded. I'm sorry, but no. I would get that Aaron Henry, contract extension press release out tomorrow morning, and just let people eat on holding Tennessee. I talked to Tennessee writers today, and I was like, let me show you in our game room how many people wanted Aaron Henry fired in the middle of the 4th quarter. And I had a lot of Tennessee people going are you kidding me? This is the best defensive performance against Tennessee that we've seen in 2.5, 3 years, short of the Ohio State playoff game. And I was like, wow, okay. I just think that if you give this defensive staff, including Brett Bielema, time to prepare for a team, they're going to come up with a plan that works. And that's what happened today. I think Aaron Henry, because of what he's learned from his boss and his mentor, Brett Bielema, can come up with a plan that's really, really solid if you give him enough time and you give him at least adequate pieces and able to do that.
Well, and like I said, the reason I asked is so at least people could understand what you're basing it on, and the fact that Brett Bielema, likes Aaron Henry and wants him in the job is important, but that's not a justification that lets people understand as to why you're thinking the way you do.
No, yeah, I hear you.
The other thing that we had is talking about the left tackle play.
I thought it was really good. I heard Josh Kreutz talk about Nathan Knappich, and he said, Nathan Knappich, because I talked with there was contact on our board. I'll just say it's Kevin Ducey, who basically said, on our board, who was like, I don't understand why Nathan Knappich starting today. And I don't know why he's getting the first career start. And the reason is I think Josh Kreutz kind of said it, is after the second bye week, he kind of sold himself to the teammates by the way he was practicing. And, Bart Miller wanted to keep the group together. But he was inching up. He was getting all the reps in the second team at some point, and he was doing really, really well. And I think the staff kind of thought that J.C. Davis was going to make the decision that he made. And they were like, well, we don't have to panic here. I think we can just toss Nathan in an early bowl prep and see how he does. And when they did that. He did really, really well in those practices inside the Smith Center on campus before they left for Nashville. They were solidified that this is the guy. I don't know if he's the guy going forward at left tackle, but it's hard for me to imagine somebody having a better first career start than he had today. And I mean, it might just be the eye of the official, but like there was 4 procedural penalties and none of them were on him. Like he really did a yeoman's job of not trying to mess up and put his team at a loss. And I didn't see any. I have to go back and look, but I didn't see any blindside pressure that would lead me to believe that Nathan Kanopik didn't do his job. And then I think a lot of that has to do with Josh. A lot of this will have to do with Josh Getsky, but I saw a lot of Illinois running the football, over the left side a lot. Yeah. And that tells me that Nathan Kanopik, did his job in the run game really, really well, and he was able to go forward. So I was really impressed, given that it was his first career start, given that Tennessee's defensive line is long and athletic. I don't think they're physical, but they're long and athletic. I think he did a pretty damn good job. And I think that's something that Brett Bielema can look at and go, I got that kid out of the portal for nothing because I took his older brother too, and we think his older brother is going to be good when he's fully healthy. And that's again how you can figure stuff out in the portal without a whole lot of resources, is that you get some Nathan Kanopiks, and sometimes that works out. And I just think for a first career start, I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll toss this out at you, Mike, before we leave, is that I know you probably talked about it with either Sturdy or Ted or somebody. But here's my question that'll probably be on my mind even on my drive home tomorrow from Nashville is, where is Luke? I mean, you're older than I am. I'm 41. Yeah. Where's Luke Altmaier in the pantheon of Illinois quarterbacks? Because at this point, you need to start having the conversation that he's up there, and he's part of that conversation, and at least in my mind.
Yeah, he is. I have I have it in like a double kind of a 2 category thing. Mm-hmm. I've got the category of the good, really good college quarterback, mm-hmm. which would be like Nathan Scheelhaus, Kurt Kittner, mm-hmm. Luke Altmaier. Then I have a separate category, which is the badass pro quarterback, which I put Dave Wilson, Tony Eason, Jack Trudeau, Jeff mm-hmm. George in. And to me, they're 2 different categories. And Luke very well may be a pro. We don't know. You know what mm-hmm. I mean? Because nobody thought Tom Brady was going to be the GOAT when they picked him in the 6th round.
Sure.
So he could be the GOAT. Who knows? Could sure. never make a roster. But we'll see where he goes with the pros as to which category I put him in. But he is definitely one of the best college quarterbacks Illinois has ever had. I would probably put him right up there with Kittner. Not as good a passer as Kittner, but his ability to move the ball with his feet mm-hmm. has been invaluable, particularly going down the end of games. And when you're talking a guy who's got 7 come from behind victories,
pretty clutch.
That may put you to number 1 because all you have to do is keep him close. And look, we joke all the time on Illini guys how bad my predictions are. Sure. But I did tell 2 different Tennessee crews that if this game gets down to the end mm-hmm. and Luke Altmaier's got the ball, Illinois will win. And there's no question mark. And I think that is a testament that he has built the faith based on results.
I will say 2 things. I think first is a stat that I almost roll my eyes at, which is I hate the quarterback wins stat because
I agree because it's a team sport.
Wins is a team sport. But Altmaier passed Jack Trudeau for 2nd all time. He now owns 2nd all time in career wins. He was only here 3 years. He wasn't here 4. He was here 3.
Exactly. I forgot
he's-
Juice too.
and he's one behind. He'll end one behind Kurt Kittner.
Yeah.
Okay. So who was here for? Let's understand. And I feel like Brett Bielema kind of said it in the sense of, in the idea of like, can you imagine, like, luck is kind of how you luck into things is kind of funny sometimes, because they fully were going hard, and I still to this day don't understand why, but they were going hard for this waiver for Tommy DeVito to come back for the 2023 season. And if that happens, Luke Altmaier never plays for Illinois.
Right.
But because they got denied the waiver so late, which I still think, why did you wait so long for a waiver that was pretty clear how it was going to go? But they waited so long. Well, Luke waited so long to get in the portal. It made the perfect marriage between Luke Altmaier and Illinois. 3 years later, he's the second most winning quarterback. He has 7, he's been a part of the best 4-year period at Illinois in program history. He's done all of those things. And you get a sense that he probably is up there on the Mount Rushmore at this point. And I hate that thing too. But if you had to name the top 5 best quarterbacks in Illinois history, he's got to be on that list. And I know there's guys that played in the NFL, but you talk about somebody who's now 2-0 all time in bowl games in an Illinois jersey, and he's beaten the SEC. And I'm talking about a kid from his parents live in Columbus, Mississippi. He went to Starkville, Mississippi high school, started his career at Ole Miss. For him to end his career with 2 bowl wins over SEC teams is really, really a big deal for him. And to do it in the way that they did it today, where he leads the drive down to win it on a walk-off kick. I mean, that's John Elway type stuff, and at the college level. And I feel like Luke has solidified himself, that his legacy here at Illinois is he was the quarterback that, kind of, put this program on a different pedestal, on a different tier. And like it or not, I think that's going to be the biggest question mark that goes into the offseason, is how does Illinois replace this quarterback that might be one of the better ones, in the last 2 decades that ever came through Illinois. And how do they kind of, reload this era without Luke Altmaier? And because I just think today, the way he played and the way that he led this team and the way that he led this comeback at the end in the fourth quarter kind of gives you the idea that, he solidified himself as somebody who, might have his jersey retired one day, at Geese Memorial Stadium. And I don't think that's nearly a stretch. So there's just got to be so much positive momentum starting right now, heading into this offseason once again, because of what Illinois has accomplished over the last 4 hours today. And I think that there isn't a way to underplay that. And so I think that's a huge deal. And I think that's something that hasn't happened, around Champaign-Urbana and around this football program in quite a long time.
Yeah. I think one of my buddies, he was talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, and he said, we can't look at this. We can't be sad about this era because it's gone. We should appreciate it because we enjoyed it. And that's how I look at Luke Altmaier, because it was really a lot of fun, and he brought this program up. And the bottom line is that's the neat thing about sports, is every time somebody signs a guy,
no worries.
It's them going, you know what? This is our guy. You don't know that maybe that's their 3rd guy.
Right.
Nobody ever walks up at the NFL draft podium and goes, well, I wanted this guy, that guy, and the other guy, but I'll take Brad Sturdy. You don't do that. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and sometimes it's Brett Bielema's talked about having alternatives and stuff, and he's probably got all these quarterbacks ranked now that are out there. I think I have a pretty good idea who he wants to go after. We'll see if I know what I'm talking about, but something tells me it's not going to be a guy who's ranked in the top, maybe even in the top 10. But it'll be a guy who's in the top
total quarterbacks. I don't think so either.
It'll
If
be
we're
like
on the same page, I don't think so either.
It'll be top 10 to 20, and the guy will be better under Brett Bielema and complimentary football than people thought he would be.
Or they won't get any of those guys, and guess what? They'll hand the football to Ethan Hampton and go, hey, we'll come up with a plan for you who will help us be a very, very successful football team in 2026. I fully suspect that could be possible too. As we wrap this thing up, I think it's so now interesting how Illinois will adapt to 19 wins over the last 2 seasons and what happens after that. Because here's the thing, Mike, is that I'll end it on this, is that, like, this even better than I do as an Illini football fan. The moving of the goalposts after a successful season to me has always been frustrating. It's always been, you got to go do it again. I'm not going to buy in unless you, and I'm talking like as a fan, like, and some of it is justified. I really believe that. Trust me, I do. But a lot of it has been, well, I'm not going to buy in until you do it again. I just don't believe it's going to happen until I see it again. And well, you saw it again. Okay. You've seen 9 wins now after 10. Okay. And so I just shrug my shoulders and I go, like, if you're Brett Bielema right now, you're like, hey, I'm doing everything I promised I said I would do, and so, like, at this point, I think everybody, it's hard for me to envision being an Illinois fan, before I got this job, but it's hard for me to envision an Illinois fan now going, like, well, I'm not completely sold yet. Like,
well,
that's
that's more of a personality issue.
No, I understand, but
I will tell you that here's the thing that you really want to look at. So no Illinois coach has ever won back-to-back bowl games. But here's the thing. Generally, Illinois wasn't playing the great. They were like, hey, we're going to play Western Michigan this year, and then the next year you might play like Virginia from the ACC. Brett Bielema has done it now back to back with SEC teams, and he's won. So arguably, it's the hardest competition that you can get. And
I'll give you one. We'll end on this. You talk about back to back. Okay, they've done it back to back. For the first time since 1952, Illinois has a football coach who has 2 bowl victories. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Ray Elliott was the last one to win 2 bowl games in 1952. There is no other head coach, because Ron Zook didn't coach the 2011 Kraft whatever bowl, whatever. But there's no other head coach in Illinois football history before Ray Elliott in 1952 that literally throughout their entire tenure has 2 bowl wins. Brett Bielema already has 2 bowl wins. Like, you talk about programs like playing in their, I think it was on our boards, like Penn State was playing in its, like, what was it?
I was 20 before Illinois won a bowl game.
Right. It was like Penn State like has played in like their 52nd bowl game, or like, and they had their 36th bowl win in program history. And I looked and I said, yeah, Illinois has, like, Penn State has 36 bowl wins. Illinois has played in 21 bowl games.
Right.
Like, I mean, Brett Bielema is doing things that this program hasn't seen in decades. And I do think that this offseason, because they're so prepared from a personnel standpoint, from a like what are we doing? What are we doing now? What have we been doing? What did we do? What were we doing in the tampering portal season that is going on right now? What are we doing when it officially opens on January 2nd? They've already had plans for that. They already know what they're doing. They've already lined up things, how it's like simulating the draft for professional teams. Like, okay, if this happens, we're going to do this. We're going to pivot this way, and we're going to do this. And we even talked to Josh Whitman, and I got into it like over the Christmas season with some of our subscribers, Mike, like that Josh Whitman's kind of been like, well, we have to do it via the rules and the College Sports Commission. He even said today, like yesterday at the press conference, in the pseudo press conference that he held for himself, he was like, we've learned that we have to pivot like a lot of other schools in our league and around the country, just like everybody else. And I'm like,
And
okay.
I have faith.
I'm like, okay.
He's a
Like,
competitive. I've been telling you that's going to happen.
Right.
He's a competitive man who's also extremely intelligent, and those
and likes winning football games. Likes winning football games.
And look,
A
at
lot.
Josh Whitman, he's one of those. He's a Renaissance man. You know, bigger, stronger, faster, and smarter than most of us. As we wrap up, I want to do one thing. We compete very hard against the people who also offer these same services, but I did want to offer for all the Illini guys my condolences out to Jeremy Werner, whose father recently passed away. A horribly tough thing to live through. I have been very fortunate. I have not had to live through that yet. Jeremy is a great guy, and we certainly at Illini guys respect him and wish him and his family the best as they go through this. Never an easy thing, but you know, again, we want them to be able to get through that. So I did want to get that out there before we wrap up. Challenging thing, you know. I know you and I both have been fortunate enough. We have our parents, but boy, that is a tough thing. So best wishes to Jeremy and his family. Folks,
for me, I saw Jeremy on Saturday, and I wish him all the best, and I wish his family every bit of all my thoughts and prayers.
Yep, we compete hard. We try to one up each other. We try to make each other better by putting new features out there and seeing if the next guy can do it. But certainly, we wish him all the best in this, folks. We will be back on Saturday night. We'll talk a post game for the Penn State. So we are very much looking forward to that. Until then, folks, go Illini.